Microsoft may be offering to pay $1 billion to buy Barnes & Noble's Nook digital media assets. That according to website TechCrunch. Now, Microsoft already has a big stake, 17%. The news, though, got Barnes & Noble stock soaring and a lot of people talking about why Microsoft would make this kind of move if, in fact, they are. Let's read into it with Mashable's editor-in-chief, Lance Ulanoff. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So let's be clear. At this point, it's just rumors and speculation. We don't really know.
Yeah, it's been going on. I mean, they have that relationship, and I think it's just something people always look at, and Barnes & Noble has struggled as of late, so maybe this is a way Microsoft swoop in and be a savior, maybe.
Okay, but Microsoft, for all its good intentions, is a business. They would only do this if it made business sense. They've got their Surface tablet. Obviously, that's not been a huge success. What do you think's going on there?
Well, I think it may be more about the content assets than the hardware. The idea that they could get the whole ebook business, which is a really big deal. In fact, that's probably the part of Barnes & Noble's business that's growing and doing the best. Even last year when they had not so great results, that was the highlight. The digital assets were the highlight. So for Microsoft to have digital assets, a content library that's similar to Google, that's similar to Amazon, it suddenly puts them in a different ballpark.
You bring up Google and Amazon. Let's talk about the whole Android thing, because if this is true, the report at TechCrunch suggests that Nook would stop selling Android tablets. Barnes & Noble just tightened its relationship with Android. Yeah. I don't really understand this part.
Yeah, I really don't understand that conclusion because, this is about like a week ago, they decided to, instead of having a curated set of content, movies and music, they put Google Play inside of the Nook HD devices, which basically makes it more comparable with a Nexus 7, which comes from Google, or even a standard Android tablet. That's a tighter relationship, not one that is seeming to break apart. And obviously, that's a competitive, actually a competitive advantage against what Amazon is doing with Kindle, which also has a curated content environment. So again, that conclusion doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Nook seems to be further entrenching itself on the Android side, not pulling away.
So Microsoft, they can certainly afford this deal. They've got a ton of cash. How would this fit into their sort of acquisition strategy? I mean, they already obviously have a large stake in it.
Right. Well, they've done that. It's a big sort of education play that they talked about, and there was some of the sort of content stuff. But we've never really entirely understood the full benefit. One thing they were able to get Barnes & Noble to do is to build Nook apps for Windows 8 and Windows RT. Big win, except that they haven't sold a ton of Windows 8 or RT. They've sold some, and not a lot of people are looking for these apps yet. So it's been really hard to understand exactly what Microsoft can get out of this, except for reach. Barnes & Noble has a lot of customers. This is what Microsoft really lacks. Microsoft doesn't have, per se, a content store, and it doesn't have easy access to their eyeballs. And also, let's not forget, this gets even more complicated because Microsoft used to have ready access to people through Internet Explorer, right? And they've kind of been eclipsed by the Chrome browser. So fewer and fewer people looking directly at what Microsoft's trying to push at them. But if they get Barnes & Noble in full and all that content and all those e-readers, suddenly they've got millions of eyeballs looking at them again to deliver whatever message Microsoft wants to deliver and to really push them toward their products.
And Nook is a big consumer brand name.
It is a big consumer brand name, but it's in transition. I mean, the brick and mortar side of the business is really struggling. It has been for a while, and no matter what you think, books will be here for a long time, but they will continue to shrink as a business. Barnes & Noble is not it's not where it will be 10 years from now. So Microsoft would really be buying something that is kind of shaking up right now. Maybe that's the right time. I don't know enough about this stuff. It could be the right time to buy it.
But does it make sense as part of Microsoft's big picture strategy? Is it better in the hands of Microsoft than it is alone, or perhaps with a competitor?
I think it could potentially be better because the content part of the business, that's a key part of the business, Microsoft really doesn't have. It would bolt in very well, and if Microsoft doesn't make a move now, potentially could shrink in the hands of Barnes & Noble, which is trying to figure out the business in the first place.
All right, this is going to be interesting. Thanks so much. Our thanks to Mashable's Lance Ulanoff. I'm Bobby Rebell. This is Reuters.